guys have Minnesota sports flowing in their veins. Mackie and Judd on SKOR North and SKORNorth.com.
Boy, what are we going to talk about today with Doogie? I guess we'll have to make some stuff up here today. A Scoop Tuesday on Minnesota sports with Mackie and Judd. Darren Doogie Wolfson from the 5 Eyewitness News Sports Department.
Actually, you know what, you guys? Doogs, bad news. You can't talk about the cat trade yet. It's not official. So you cannot talk about it. I'm sorry. You can talk about the Wolves, but you cannot address the trade. When it happens, you will allow us to know it's official, and then you can talk about it.
It is classic, isn't it? I will tell you, though. So, Declan, when will this post? Will you be uber aggressive? Will this be posted
probably
in like the next 20 minutes?
Are you going to do your job, Declan, or not today?
It will probably be posted by 11 a.m. to both feeds. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So I think it'll be posted before the trade is made official. But like we're not that far away from it being official. Then a formal news conference, Connolly, Finch, the new players.
So this man, Tim Connolly, just lurks in the shadows. The Gobert trade, even the D'Lo trade, and then this one. It's funny because we've been on this show with you, Doogie, and Flagrant Howls. We've been, I think, leading the discussion for, hey, at some point, Cat probably gets traded. You brought up the Knicks for like 3 years, the Leon Rose connection. Him and Tom Thibodeau have a better relationship, or at least got along better than maybe it's being painted by the media. But then it just drops at 9 p.m. on a Friday night, and it's still sort of shocking. But what do you make of this? Your thoughts on just the fact that they traded him, why they traded him, and then the return that they got? Anything that you want to start with here, go ahead.
All right. The timing absolutely surprised me. I thought I was good to go this past weekend.
Dane Moore went camping this weekend.
I know. Well, I mean, Laura and I went out for dinner after Drew's baseball game on Friday. First time we've had dinner, just the two of us, in a really long time.
Yeah.
And she keeps looking at me. My phone is vibrating, and I'm trying to be a good husband, right? And so I'm like, okay, like we don't get this opportunity very often. I was. And so I tried to play catch up late Friday into Saturday, into Sunday, helping out Channel 5 with as much information as possible. But Phil, you said it. How often have we brought this up? How often have we brought up the possibility of the 24 offseason being very fascinating? Yep. Well, here we are. What changed it was, like a lot of us thought they would lose to the Phoenix Suns in the first round. At that point, yes, Cat was going to be traded. They then go on an unreal run. I don't think many of us thought they beat Phoenix. They beat Denver. They have home court advantage in the Western Conference Finals. Typically, when you're a Final Four team, you have home court in the Western Conference Finals, you run things back. Heck, talking to Tim Connolly for a while at the State Fair in late August, the thought was they are running this thing back. What did change then? Because the Knicks have had cursory interest in Cat going back a while. You mentioned it. It's Leon Rose's former agent. It's William Wesley. It's Tom Thibodeau. It's Gerson Rosas. We've known about this Cat Knicks interest going back a while. Julius Randle had always been on the table. The draft pick had always been on the table. Heck, we knew the Knicks needed a center. Mitchell Robinson out for a while. Hartenstein leaves in free agency. Were they really going to play Julius Randle at the center position? They tried to get Clint Capella from Atlanta. You know, they made some other calls. It just didn't seem like the Wolves would bend on Cat. Many calls were made or text messages were sent. The Wolves said no, resisting. We are not moving Cat. My sense is the love for Dante DiVincenzo combined with this idea that they can now re-sign Naz Reid, keep Naz long-term, not lose Naz next summer, and that they were not going to get this offer, this good an offer 1 year from now. Because I would have told you even 2 weeks ago, Cat was being traded summer of 25. Even with the extension ascending, you can still trade that contract. There wasn't like this robust market, but I thought they would trade him a year from now. But to me, it was DiVincenzo combined with, okay, the more you studied it, went down the rabbit hole, deeper dive, calendar flips to September. And if you're going to do a deal like this, you do it now. Like you couldn't make this trade at the trade deadline. just with all the moving parts, with Charlotte being involved, it was now or wait until after the season. And the Wolves came to the conclusion this was the best possible offer. They were not getting an offer like this a year from now, that they're not going to take much of a step backwards. We can, go further on that because they may, but they don't feel like they will. And they decided to finally say yes late on Friday.
So, Duke, how quickly do you think this percolated then? I mean, clearly the Knicks had inquired, so that's not new. But as far as DiVincenzo being added to the package and Conley signing off, are we talking about like a 2-day period? Are we talking, do you think they called on Friday and said, okay, we'll give DiVincenzo to you? How quickly do you think that the bones of the trade itself came together?
Well, a little bit earlier than Friday. Like, I had a nice chat with Bobby Marks of ESPN, former Nets assistant GM, on Monday. He started to hear some whispers, but didn't have enough to run with earlier on Thursday. And so my sense is it picked up middle of the week. I can't tell you definitively when exactly DiVincenzo was put on the table. Does that go back a few days and they were going back and forth, maybe on, trying to find who that third team would be? Like, that wasn't easy. Maybe Charlotte was the obvious choice, but still not easy. So many moving parts that it just took a while. But the idea of DiVincenzo being on the table, like even in late August, no, I don't sense that was the case at all. Just the way Tim was talking with me, not only on camera, but a little bit off camera, just the excitement of running this thing back, feeling like when you're a Final Four team, you're knocking on the door of a championship, you don't blow up a core like that.
Right.
But they feel like, hey, they're not going to be all that much worse. I think they might be. I don't think they necessarily won this trade, but I understand the love for Dante DiVincenzo. I also have fear, even though JB Bickerstaff is my guy, that I don't know if that Pistons pick will ever convey. Now, hey, it's an asset that they otherwise didn't have. So the way you can look at this is DiVincenzo is an asset. The first round pick is an asset. Heck, Julius Randle in 60 days is a trade asset. And Cat was maybe half an asset because there wasn't this, wide-ranging market and all these offers for Cat about to kick into a $260 million extension. But I'm just telling you, Judd, to answer your question, my sense is it was the involvement of Charlotte that took the longest, but DiVincenzo wasn't on the table even going back a couple weeks. Boys, pause for a second. Dog going outside.
That's okay. Well, Doogie goes and wrangles things up here, Dex. Why don't you tell the audience what's happening at Underdog right now, huh?
Some great stuff happening.
I'll mute Dukes there just in case.
Yeah, good idea there. Listener sent me this one. I think our guy Kip sent me this little five pick'em here from Underdog. He was able to get the Patrick Mahomes basically free spot there with the 0.5. Then rode the Aaron Jones, and Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, Jordan Mason, the vulture protection on there, which I've talked about before. Underdog, promo code SKOR, SKOR. They'll give you a 50% deposit match. I'm even having a lot of success with Underdog. If I'm having success, I think you will as well. Go download Underdog, promo SKOR for a 50% deposit match.
Shout out to Nicolay Law as well, helping SKOR North listeners and beyond get the compensation that you deserved after an accident. So if you've been injured or maybe a loved one has been injured or in an accident, you know that ordinary life can come to a stop. Things can be spinning. And that's where Russell Nicolay and his wonderful team come in to help stand up for you. Start your path to winning at nicolaylaw.com, or you can get Minnesota's local award-winning injury lawyers or give them a call at 1-855-NICOLAY. So, Doogie, on the basketball front here, and it's going to take a while to figure out what this all looks like, and they've got like extra guy in their rotation. But I just want to point to a couple factors here for people that are shocked at how could you possibly make this trade. Number one, it's not a salary dump. The Wolves are still the second highest payroll in the NBA this year. Next year, they're projected to be, depending on what happens with that Randle player option, a top 3 payroll. So this is not like a Joe Pohlad salary dump situation.
No, Glenn Taylor did not make one call to Tim Connolly at all this summer saying, you trade Karl Anthony Towns. This was a basketball trade. For right or wrong, although Tim Connolly deserves the benefit of the doubt, but this was Tim Connolly, Matt Lloyd, Dell Demps making a basketball trade. Cat did not demand out also.
So on that front, basketball trade, if Tim Connolly thought that Karl Anthony Towns was a key centerpiece or secondary piece to a championship caliber team. He does not make this trade on Friday. And I want to point to two things here that if you're the Wolves front office, you had to take a really strong look at, and they clearly did. Number one, we love our lineup combinations on Flagrant House, looking to see which three-man combos work the best, which two-man combos, right? Among the Wolves' best three-man lineup combinations, so this guy on the court together, and then this guy on the court together, Karl Anthony Towns was not part of any of their top 5 three-man lineup combinations. Ant, Gobert, Naz Reid was their best three-man combination. Ant, Gobert, Nikhil. Ant, Naz Reid, Kyle Anderson. Ant, Gobert, Kyle Anderson. Ant, Naz Reid, Nikhil. It's Ant. Naz Reid, Rudy Gobert. What if we narrow it down to two-man lineup combinations? Cat was not among the best two-man pairings 1 through 8 on the Wolves roster last year. The best pairing was actually Gobert and Nickeil Alexander-Walker. Then it's Gobert, Naz Reid, Ant, Kyle Anderson, Ant, Gobert, Ant, Naz Reid, Ant, Naz Reid. Cat is nowhere to be found among the Wolves' best 3- and 2-man lineup combinations, and he has led the NBA in offensive fouls per game 4 consecutive seasons. Like, you're looking at this and you're saying, we're going to pay supermax money, $50-60 million a year for 4 years while he gets older? This is the brilliant time to sell high here from a basketball perspective. Forget about like the financial side of this in 3 or 4 years too, Dukes. I love this trade.
There is an injury history as well, including the short-term meniscus repair back in March. And so you think about Cat's body, how will that hold up over the next few years? Now, in Cat's defense, still was figuring out because of the injury the first year how exactly to coexist with Rudy. Heck, overall just being the Robin to Ant's Batman. And so you've got the evidence. I can't argue with your evidence, Phil, but I'm just saying I think Cat deserves some credit for not being a complete a-hole, saying,
Sure.
hey, like,
Congrats.
No, I'm the face of this franchise, not Ant. I thought he deferred pretty darn good. And I think playing next to Rudy, even though he liked it, even though publicly he said all the right things, it was still very much a work in progress. But the more I think about it, I do understand the trade. I'm telling you, the love for Naz Reid is legit. And I just don't foresee a scenario where if Cat was still here, that Naz was going to be back. He will exercise that player option after this season. So how exactly were you keeping Naz Reid? I'm telling you, with this trade, it is very realistic that Naz is going to be here for the long term.
So why do you think that the Wolves might not have won this trade, Dukes?
Because I think Julius Randle is not a good fit. I have spacing questions. Like, he needs the ball. Like, Cat was catch and shoot, catch and drive. Julius, it takes a while for things to develop. Now, hey, Chris Finch had Julius in New Orleans. Dell Demps had Julius in New Orleans. Okay. They have the book on Julius. Plus, he is trade eligible. Heck, he's trade eligible immediately, if not aggregated. But he's trade eligible for the most part in 60 days. So I wouldn't necessarily rule out that possibility. In fact, I'll tell you what one high-ranking Wolves official told me when I ran that idea by him over the weekend. I think it will depend on play and team success. Makes sense. If he plays well, though, certainly a good trade asset. That is verbatim what a high-ranking Wolves official told me over the weekend. So the long-term play here might not be Julius Randle. Now, hey, if it works out, if they're playing really well, if Julius is a great fit November, December, then guess what? Then you consider signing him to a long-term extension. So they have the hammer in many ways. But I just wonder, what is that going to be like with Julius Randle? Now, hey, if it doesn't work all that well, play Naz Reid that many more minutes. But how will Julius react to that? I wonder about the Julius Randle dynamic. DiVincenzo, no doubt in my mind. Like, he'll be in the mix for 6th man of the year. Dante DiVincenzo is a stud.
Yep.
Love him. There's a reason why the Wolves tried to sign him before he ultimately chose the Knicks. Now, it wasn't all that close. Like, It's not like he was, agonizing at night. Should I go to New York or Minnesota? It was a very easy yes for him to go to New York. But there was legit interest from the Wolves in DiVincenzo before he chose New York. Plus that draft pick, I'm telling you, JB Bickerstaff is my guy, new head coach of the Pistons. But will that pick convey? To me, your best hope is draft of 27, June of 27, top 9 protection. But maybe you can move that pick. Like, you can move that pick instantly.
It's
so
an
I guess
asset.
you didn't have that asset previously. That is certainly an asset. I just wonder if in the end it's a second-round pick, not a first-round pick. But more than anything, I just have questions about the fit of Julius Randle.
Yeah. Dukes, the Twins, Joe Pohlad, made it very clear on Sunday during the sort of
Not on camera, though, Phil. Wouldn't do anything
away.
on camera. Did you notice there wasn't any video of Joe Pohlad talking? You mean to tell me that Bobby Nightingale Jr. of the Star Tribune or Doe from MLB, that they would not have grabbed their cell phone to record Joe Pohlad? I'm just telling you. Or Bally's, Audra Martin. I'm just telling you. Did you notice there was no video of Joe Pohlad talking?
We noticed.
Okay.
No.
So we'll make that very clear.
No, I mean, I was going to say it was a very well tucked away media scrum during the middle of a Vikings-Packers game with
Go in this closet,
hand-selected.
5 minutes, knock 3 times, special Twins knock, and we'll let you in.
Yeah. So he made it very clear for anyone wondering that he and the Pohlad family have a business to run. Any talk about winning a championship or winning games is secondary to having a business to run. And he wouldn't have made any other decision, even with 12 months of retrospect and thinking, when it came to cutting the payroll. So hey, I got a business to run. And I wonder if he's thinking about the long-term ramifications of the way that they've run the business the last 12 months. That's my biggest question, I guess.
Well, and I mean, Joe Pohlad ran a radio station into the ground, right? So what sort of trust do you have in Joe Pohlad? I get it. When Chip Scoggins pens, when others opine that it's time for the Pohlads to sell, do that. I mean, I was half joking last week, but if it doesn't work out for Mark Lowry and Alex Rodriguez over the next handful of months, hey, Bloomberg, the Eric Schmidt money, like, find a way to buy the Twins. They had interest in the New York Mets, right? So there is baseball interest there. It's not NBA or bust. And if it's not them, someone else, right? Then it's time. Think about what they bought, the Pohlad family bought the Twins for many, many years ago, what the Twins are now worth. Just sell the team. And, like, I don't know how they dig out of this PR disaster. I'm trying to think next April, next May. I mean, I guess if they're the best team in baseball, maybe. But, like, what are the chances of that over the first couple months? I have serious questions about how they dig themselves out of this hole.
And, I mean, the questions are this, too. Season tickets. Good luck. And that includes selling suites to corporations. If I'm a corporation, why do I want to be stuck with a suite? TV, are they going to go to streaming? If they do, they're going to get basically no rights fee. If they don't, they go back to Bally's, and then they don't have streaming. So, like, there's beyond the meltdown, which in and of itself is a discussion. Like, that meltdown is a discussion. Beyond that, though, this is a disaster around it. And they had lost fans. I mean, Doogie, when they were winning, what, three plus good months, people were ice cold to them then. So
Comcast, who could watch them?
Yeah. But the point is, like, if Joe Pohlad doesn't realize that, if the Pohlad family is going to continue to run the team, at some point in time, they got to say, you know what? We rode the wrong horse here, Joe. We're either sticking Jim back in charge, not because he's good, but because he's at least not a complete idiot, or we're going to get, or we are going to look to sell. Because if Joe Pohlad is the last person who raised his little hand and said, I'll do it, at some point you got to say, let's just cash it in and move on.
Yeah, the thing is, real quick, you're like, I don't think they fundamentally understand their position in this business. Like, they talk, right size the business, and if we put a winning team out there, it's like a transaction. If we put a winning team out there, it doesn't matter what the payroll is, it doesn't matter. No, you need to get fans to love your product and spend money on your product and watch your product. And as to your guys' point, as they found out, you can be 17 games over 500 and still not be putting 2 million fans in the stands. You were 3 million when Target Field opened for the first 2 or 3 years. But what are they doing from a messaging standpoint, from action in the offseason at the trade deadline to product on the field melting down 2 of the last 3 years, and yet, hey, everything is fine. We're going to just keep running it back with the same staff. How are you getting people to love and invest in your product? And he's going the other way. He's talking about, well, listen, all that's great, but I have a business to run. It's like, oh, man.
I mean, bottom line, you can't run the Twins like you're running an auto dealership. They're different. And I don't know if Joe understands that. Now, Judd, Jim, you think things would be like drastically different if you put Jim back in charge?
I think he wouldn't have
I'm
said.
not there. I'm sorry.
Well, no, I'm just saying, but Joe is actually doing worse than Jim did. That's my point.
Sure. But I think we would all agree, just sell.
Yeah.
You can make a ton of money.
Yeah.
The time is now.
Yeah.
Sell.
This
was Carl and Eloise's baby.
Well,
they're gone. Sell.
Carl did try to contract it, so
I know.
they did try to.
I get it. I know.
Why not? I know that this is a rhetorical question for the room
Remember
here,
the
but
portable
Duke's
stadium idea.
Chris
portable
Pauser,
stadium.
Burger King guy. They hired Burger King guy.
Dukes, why not? Again, I'm just thinking from a image management standpoint here. Why not pick a day, Tuesday, Wednesday? Tuesday would be great. Today would be great. A day after Wolves Media Day. The Vikings have been cleared out. It's before Vikings Wednesday. And sit down and invite any and every media, open it up, live stream it for fans, and sit and just take the bullets and say, hey, we own this. The last 12 months have been a disaster. We are going to be better. We're going to evaluate things, and even if it's just platitudes, like just to calm people down, why not do that?
Agreed, because I don't know if Joe is capable, but I will tell you, like I was told, we will get some FaceTime with Derek and Rocco before the week is over. Now, I don't have the specific day and time quite yet, but at least they're trying in that regard. I have not been told that we'll be able to get Joe Pohlad on camera. I'd love to get him on camera. I have not been told that he's willing to do anything.
No. He doesn't feel comfortable on camera. He doesn't.
Yeah, well, and that's too damn bad. But here's so the difference I think between Jim and Joe is Jim is a very milquetoast. I'm not saying he's great, but I mean he is a milquetoast personality. He's not good in front of a mic, but he's sort of this like Joe comes off as brash. He comes off as hubris. He comes off as like Jim isn't likable because he's milquetoast. Joe is not likable because he came off as a complete ass, which I think is way, way worse. Here's my other question. And I'm not saying that this guy would get up in front of the mics and knock it out of the park. Where is Dave St. Peter? Like, he would be the guy that I would have actually sent up. Like if Joe just can't talk, or he's gonna, or if I'm Dave and I said, Joe, what are your talking points for Sunday? And he's like, well, this is a business. I'd be like, dude, I'll do this. Where is Dave? Like, where is somebody they have used? I mean, Jim used Dave as a spokesman, which was at least, I mean, Dave could navigate the situation. People were pissed.
Oh, Dave's fully capable of navigating.
No, I know, but where's Dave?
I think that, like, if that happens, and Dave will be made available at some point. I've not heard of Dave being in trouble. Much like going back to last week, there just was no sense Rocco was in trouble or Derek was in trouble. Now, I'll be shocked if it's status quo. Like, we are going to see some level of change, but I've not heard any sort of Dave St. Peter's team. So I think Dave will be made available at some point. But really, how much does that accomplish? Because the blowback would be, why is it Dave? Where is Joe? It, to me, has to be Joe. And I don't think that is going to happen. Unless there's a change of heart, I don't think that's going to happen.
Till I see his talking points. And then it's like, Joe, we got to work on these.
So Dukes, Falvey's back. Rocco's back. Now, Pat, we just got done recording Royce Unchained, and people can find this, SKOR North YouTube channel, Royce Unchained. Pat kind of floated. He thinks there's a chance that Derek Falvey could be, it was kind of educated speculation that his role could be even like bigger, more of like a president organization thing,
Well, he is beloved.
and that Thad's
That hasn't
contract is up.
Yes.
Thad Levine, who's been much less lower profile in the last 4 or 5 years.
In fact, there are some people over there wondering what Thad does on a day in and day out basis. Certainly busy enough, good relationships with agents, right? When it's time to think about player acquisition. But I'm just telling you, I've heard from a couple people that wonder, for 12 months a year, day in and day out, what exactly does Thad do?
So you could, if you're the Twins going forward here, I mean, they started off by putting a flag in the ground saying, despite this historical collapse and the second time in 3 years in which the Twins have completely collapsed in September, Falvey is for sure the guy. Rocco is for sure the guy. The fact that we're even questioning this is ridiculous, is kind of, to me, the tone of everything. Okay, well, could they then, hey, Thad's contract is up. We're going to bring in sort of another right-hand man for Falvey, and we're going to change out 2 coaches. I mean, I guess you could play those chess pieces on the board.
I wouldn't be shocked if those are the chess pieces that are played. I don't know about bringing in a different right-hand man for Derek. I think what Royce laid out, just giving Derek that much more responsibility. And he has it, but maybe by title, even though he sort of has it with title. But
President.
I think those are the chess pieces. And I do think it's plural. I don't think it's just going to be like one person and that's it. So that's when I say the status quo is not going to remain the same. I think we're going to see multiple changes. I just don't know about a new right-hand man coming in to join Derek.
But like you are, to use the old cliche, you are shuffling chairs on the Titanic at that point. Like Tommy Watkins is gone. Oh yeah, get me my season tickets. Thad has not been heard.
Well, I mean, that's where.
3 years.
Well, I mean, are you selling if you fire Rocco, right? Because when you collapse for a second time in 3 years,
yes,
oftentimes the manager's head rolls. Okay, so if they had fired Rocco on Monday, are they selling that many more season tickets?
I think no, but I think they're showing that they at least have some. My problem is, I think from the top on down right now, it feels like they have no idea what they're doing, and yet they're the smartest guys in the room, and people smell that, and they think these guys are the ultimate hubris. I don't like them. I think if you fire Rocco, they might not sell more tickets immediately, but I think that more people say, oh, okay, they've recognized a problem. They are basically telling you, buzz off, we know what we're doing. And at every turn right now, they've screwed up everything.
By the way, we haven't even talked about the fact that Carlos Correa has been in the spin cycle organizationally. I don't know who's at fault for what, but that there's some tension there. Royce Lewis has cut open veins.
It was not kumbaya in that clubhouse.
Dude, I mean, it's
yeah, we touched on it a little bit, but yes.
But it's being framed verbatim from Joe Pohlad as, hey, it was a bad 6 weeks. Was it a bad 6 weeks? Or is it a bad 3 out of 4 years with some major symptoms that are popping up here? It's crazy. And it feels anecdotally like fans are as fed up with this organization as they've been in maybe 2011 was bad, but fans still showed up to the ballpark. Contraction.
Well, at that point, Target Field was still pretty much brand new.
Yep.
Best outdoor bar in the Twin Cities. I think what the Twins need to guard against, to a large degree, is apathy kicking in.
Yes.
How many fans are just completely tuning out? The Twins should respect those that are voicing their opinion loudly because they care. They're passionate. Judd, I'm telling you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad we're talking about the Twins. I love talking baseball. I'll talk baseball more than just about anything. Baseball, basketball, even though I fully recognize the Vikings are the clear-cut number one team in town, it's not close. So I better be paying a lot of attention to the Vikings, covering them as much as I cover any team in town. But for me personally, baseball and basketball. My fear, Judd, is people are tuning out baseball. I don't want that to happen.
Yeah. Hey, we got 2 or 3 more minutes here before we got to bounce. So why don't you empty? And we can go heavy Vikings in a couple days on Thursday, so no pressure. And we'll have Wednesday availability. But anything else in your scoop bag here, Dukes, before we part ways?
Well, back to the Wolves. It sounds like optimism, maybe cautiously, but optimism on the Mark Lowry, Alex Rodriguez front. It is fascinating to me going back to Friday. Bill Pop is a limited partner. It's not like Bill Pop was getting a phone call ahead of time a heads up on what was about to take place, then the fallout right after the news broke of Cat being traded. But it's fascinating to me, just the involvement of Alex / Mark as still limited partners, but they are optimistic, albeit cautiously, but optimistic heading into Monday, November 4th, the start of arbitration. I've gotten some questions about that little tidbit I dropped last Thursday about the Wolves HR department, human resources department being busy. I will say I was able to reference the Rosas situation 3 years ago this time because he ultimately got fired. And so I need to see what takes place. It's an ongoing internal situation, not really involving Cat. So there's not a Cat component to this. It's not like Cat. People ask me about that. Is Cat gone because of what you alluded to last Thursday? Not really. No. I mean, for the most part, no. But until there's some sort of like actual news, if there is, because it might just all be handled internally with no actual news, somebody being fired or a public suspension, something like that, I'll just leave it at that. But I did want to follow up on that. Ivan Pace Jr. back on Sunday for the Vikings in London. So the Vikings are optimistic about Ivan Pace Jr. being back after missing 2 games. Gophers men's basketball upset the Tommy Oneman of Cretin-Durham Hall, transfer from Fargo, top 100 player in the country in the class of 2025, committed on Monday to Notre Dame. Can't fault the kid. Think about the Catholic pipeline, Cretin into Notre Dame, even though he came from Fargo. But now at Cretin, Notre Dame is building something pretty good. They are doing a really good job recruiting right now. Certainly, if NIL is any sort of factor in this, Notre Dame has more at its disposal than the Gophers men's basketball program. But the Gophers were hoping to get Tommy for his official visit this upcoming weekend. So there's a lot of frustration over in Dinkytown about the Gophers not being able to get Tommy, at least for that official visit, trying to sell him hardcore this weekend. He has visited unofficially, but that's a pretty big loss for the Gophers men's basketball team.
Yeah. Darren Doogie Wolfson, little scoop session on this Tuesday. Thanks, Doogs.
Yeah, and we can follow up more on the Wolves later in the week. I mean, there's a roster spot at stake now. Is it PJ Dozier? Is it Kidda, Bates, Diop? What will the exact final trade look like? Like, don't be surprised if the Wolves end up also with a second-round pick. I don't know how much that's out there. And so there's still more fallout with the Wolves, which we can hit on Thursday.
Yeah.
Stuff.
All right, Dukes. We'll do it again Thursday. Never a dull moment here.
Absolutely.
Never a dull moment. All right, boys. Minnesota Sports with Mackie and Judd. See you guys for Write That Down Wednesday tomorrow.